I'm back at Viera Wetlands. It's a little bit later in the year, so there's not as many birds here, but I'm watching this little one right here chasing fish. I'd like to go ahead and take a second and pause this video and share with you how I get my hair to look this good. It's a lot of dedication. I basically wake up and I leave my house. I think it's a tricolored heron. Anyways, it's really neat as he flies out and spreads his wings out. All of the fish scatter and make these little ripples all across this little pond where he is. It's really cool looking. In this first shot, you can see exactly what I mean. When this tricolored heron would lift its wings up, it would scare all of these little minnows in the background and cause all of those little ripples and circles that you see there. It was really fun to watch. This picture is a little deceptive because everything looks so calm, but the tricolored heron was just waiting to pounce. And you can see in the next image, it did. And when they do this, it's incredible to watch. It's so fast. And if you have a high-speed camera like the D500, you can capture all of the action as it's happening. So you can see here from this series of images, I was able to capture all of the action, including this nice little shake at the end and then some nice ruffling of the feathers. And time for round two. And keep in mind, all these images that you're seeing here, this happened in maybe less than a minute's time. These little tricolored herons are always super fun to photograph. If you can catch them while they're feeding like this, they provide so many good opportunities to practice fast movement. You'll notice I was using a really fast shutter speed of 1/2500th of a second, but I had my aperture wide open at f5.6. This helped me stop all of the motion, but still get enough good light on this bird while it was moving so quickly. And now for some in-flight shots. All of these were shot in manual mode, and I use auto ISO with a range of 100 to 2500, so the camera chooses the ISO for me. You may also notice I'm using a -0.3 for the exposure compensation. The camera will adjust the ISO to compensate for this exposure compensation, which helps the birds from being overblown, and you can still get a lot of good detail on the feathers. And towards the end here, I actually dropped it to 0.07 because I was noticing a lot of the highlights on the feathers were getting blown out. And in these last few images, the tricolored heron was coming in for a landing and it had spotted a fish. And you can tell it's angled in, getting ready to go into the water. And it finally captured this little tiny minnow in this next to last picture. And the last picture I thought was really cool. He's just holding his feathers up and it looks really interesting. So this is one of the really cool things about this place. Is there's this little pond behind me and it's full of egrets and herons and they're constantly feeding. I've already gotten a bunch of shots, but look at this. There were plenty of great opportunities for excellent photographs, and the first one is of a great blue heron with a little teeny crawfish stuck to its beak. That little crawfish disappeared in one big gulp. It was almost difficult to not get some cool pictures because there were so many birds right here feeding. It was amazing. Great blue herons weren't the only birds feeding here this morning. This great egret managed to snag itself a small but tasty largemouth bass. And then immediately after that, it managed to grab this little brim. Competition for fish was fierce. This great blue heron managed to snag itself a little brim too. And in this series, you get to see exactly how the great blue heron grabs the fish, tosses it up in the air so that it can reposition it so that it can go down head first, and then boom, that little fish goes right down the great blue heron's throat while it's still alive. And now things are starting to get even more interesting because the fish are getting bigger with each catch. Look at this big fish the heron has caught, and if you look close you can see the bottom beak of the heron has gone all the way through and speared this fish. And now the great egret decides to prove that it can catch a fish just as big the same way. But it has a little bit of trouble trying to get it down. Look at this shot where the spikes on the fish's dorsal fin or its back are sticking up and preventing it from going down the bird's throat. But then a great blue heron got too close to this egret, and the egret decided to fly away with its catch before it got stolen. And then from out of nowhere, a nice roseate spoonbill decides to fly over and check everything out. Look at it looking down at what's going on in the pool below. So among all of these fish, or birds fishing, is this little tiny alligator. So I'm hand holding this, so it's gonna be a little wonky, but I'll try to zoom out. Oh, he's tiny. And so for reference, here's an egret off in the background. Not the greatest filming, but so you just get a size of a comparison of size. And there he is. I just filmed a little bit of a little gator out here. Right past my camera, there's a little piece of water that comes in. On the other side is a bigger gator. And I'm filming him with the D500. And there's some herons moving and a moorhen in the background. I'll show you what the video looks like in just a second. He's big and he's just laying up in the sun with his eyes closed. It's really cool looking. And here's that footage of the gator. And if you look, I guess the gator's just taking a nap. It was busy soaking up some warm sun. And if you look closer, you can see a tricolored heron in the background. It sneaks out and grabs a fish really quick. This is a very large softshell turtle. The turtle gets that name because its shell appears to be soft, almost leather-like. Have a look at this turtle. This is a close-up of the softshell turtle. Check out the nose on this turtle. It looks kind of like a snorkel, and they use it the same way. It allows them to stay under the surface of the water and just stick that tiny part of their nose up and take a breath. And right under that, you see the black that looks almost like a big black fingernail. That's actually the turtle's tooth. And I've seen these turtles bite down on stuff, and they're very, very powerful. So I would hate to see like a finger get in the way there, because I would imagine it would be gone. There's an osprey way over on the other side of this pond that's got a really big tilapia, and he's eating it. I was able to get in, zoom in and get some good video of it. This osprey was about 150 feet or 45 meters away. And if you look, you can see this crow here in the foreground is waiting for the osprey to drop a piece of fish. They're such opportunists. I wanted to see if I could get closer to get some better footage. And I did. Check out this incredible bird. Look at the size of the fish it has on this old dead palm tree. Now imagine this bird has to dive into the water and pull out what I would guess to be a 5-pound fish, fly with it, and then land over here. And in the process, there are all these other birds that are trying to steal this fish from it. In fact, while I was setting up to do this, an eagle flew over, and the osprey was eyeing that eagle very carefully while it was eating its food. And here's a shot of that osprey watching very carefully as the bald eagle flew overhead. Eagles will come in and steal the food from ospreys all the time. They're like big bullies here at this place. And I don't know if you noticed in the prior video and in this shot, there's actually 2 ospreys here eating at the same exact time. I kind of hit the osprey lottery, and here's a video. Check it out. It's really cool looking. Osprey number 1 enjoying a huge tilapia. And then in the foreground, the one that I've already taken pictures of, is osprey number 2 enjoying a huge tilapia. What are the odds of finding this? Apparently pretty good at Viera Wetlands. I never get tired of watching these incredible birds doing what they have to in order to survive. And of course, I'm going to get as many good shots in as I can. The eagle kept circling around above, so I decided to wait a little bit and see if it wanted to come in and try to steal this osprey's fish, but it didn't. I've been playing around with the macro capabilities of the Nikon 200-500, and while it's technically marketed as a wildlife or zoom lens, you can also use it for some macro shots. And here's a quick shot I did while I was waiting around to see if this eagle came back. It's just a tiny little group of flowers. These flowers were maybe the size of a match head. While it's not a true macro lens, it still gets some pretty decent results. This is the Peninsula ribbon snake. It's a fairly common snake, and it's not venomous. And I was able to get close enough with the 200-500 to see the snake's eyes. And if you see the snake's eyes, you notice how the pupils are round. That's one way that you can tell this snake is not venomous. Most venomous snakes will have kind of like a cat eye, where the non-venomous have a round pupil. After the little ribbon snake left, I noticed this beautiful colored immature white ibis pretty close by, so I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get some shots. Look at the eye on this bird. It's just gorgeous, and all the color around it. There are a lot of really nice color harmonies going on in this series of pictures. Look at the turtle. There's that big old soft shell. She was up here laying eggs right in here. tell where she's been burying them, but the crows got into the nest here. Look, and you see the eggs down in there. The camera's putting a shadow right on it. Maybe there. It's upside down. But can you see those eggs? That's what the crows were taking. I can see 3 of them at least. Ah, the crows. I tend to like these birds. They are always a little mysterious, always curious, and at times frightening. This pair was perched right above the turtle nest they were busy raiding. I was now in their way, and I had a choice to make. Should I let the crows have their way with the turtle eggs, or should I remove the remaining eggs and relocate them to a safer place? I decided to give the turtle eggs a fighting chance by removing them and transporting them to a safer place. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do it. And as always, leave a comment and let me know what you think of the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. In my next video, you'll get to see what became of those turtle eggs. Thanks for watching.